Last time on Wanderlust. How was your trip?
Transformative, I would say.
When you say that, you see... And then you returned, and you look different, and so does Fred, and Estelle, and the sheriff.
It's true, we all had a pretty intense experience, and a lot has changed, but I don't think anything more drastic than Smokey Banks not being next to the ocean.
And there's a tree growing in, like, flooring has been ripped up, and there's a tree growing there.
This looks new.
Yeah, it's definitely new.
And she, pats the new tree in the middle of the room.
When you do that, you see Maul does something between a flinch and a shiver. Like, this kind of like, oh, okay.
Did you feel that?
You hitting the tree? Yeah, kinda. Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. When you see that, she goes, you see the bigger pattern? And then she, sits down and just goes, do me, do me, do me. What's my bigger pattern?
I see you always running, and every time you run, it gets you closer and closer to here.
Maul pulls you into an embrace and goes, what is the point of being able to see the pattern of someone's entire life and not be able to tell that they feel the same way? So, this is what you're in the midst of dealing with, is, this is basically, a veterinary emergency immediately. You guys are going to, start having huge amounts of your food supply dying if you don't figure out how to, do this.
What do you want, Mitchell? What do you want? What else are you going to add to my to-do list right now?
You see Mitchell kind of leans back and goes, I'm thinking about quitting my job. I think I've already sort of quit my job.
I was about to say, I don't think you're doing your job anymore. I think Matthew is.
I was going to say, I think Matthew is. And I'm worried that Smokey Banks is going to follow them in some way or another, and that it's inescapable. That will make the same mistakes they did, that will do all the same things that everyone does in these situations, and that Smokey Banks will collapse, or fall apart, or be overrun, or just turn into ruins that someone else will find someday. And I don't want that. Estelle, after what seems like blinking, basically, you kind of jolt awake. You're leaning against Mitchell, who's sort of jostling you a little bit. He looks down at you and goes, it's been 30 minutes, and I think that they need you back. And as you look out over the coast, you can see already that a lot of the plant life, especially that was out in the salt water, is starting to kind of wilt. It isn't dead all at once, but you can see it starting to wilt, and people are struggling with the big kind of manatee things that you used as saltwater livestock to get them into pools and stuff. And you can see with some urgency people are shouting and kind of running around. What does Estelle do?
Goddess bless. And she scrambles to her feet, grabs her notes that I'm assuming probably fell to the ground.
Yeah.
And I think she just starts heading back there at a pretty fast pace.
All right. So when you get there, things are getting a little chaotic. Some of the older manatees are struggling to get to swim basically in this water. The buoyancy is significantly different. So people are trying to hoist them up, but this is something that typically you would maybe, call a little bit of the herd every once in a while. Now you're having to do a lot of them all at once. It's getting hectic. Make me some kind of veterinary check. Veterinarian check? Veterinary check. That's what I'm looking for.
I'm guessing animal handling.
Animal handling works, yeah. Whatever you use when you're doing vet stuff.
Animal handling.
Yep.
I feel like literally this is animal handling. I don't know what skill is more apropos for this.
Oh, wow. Okay. A 1.
Oh, shoot. Okay. So, as you go over and start trying to help, basically, the older, I guess I'm calling them manatees, the older manatees that you guys were using for food typically would be difficult to get out of the water. And specifically in this case, they're trying to load a lot of them really fast into salty pools that they're making other places, by just salinating water as quickly as they can. Some of them you can tell are ill, and you're trying to hoist them out of the water. And as you're doing this, it is literally hand cranking winches and trying to lift up things that weigh 600 pounds out of the water with you and a bunch of people. And you're feeling yourself lose one that can no longer support itself. And as you're struggling to get it out of the water, you feel a hand touch yours, and you look over and see Mitchell, and he looks pretty indifferent. Indifference maybe not the right word. He looks pretty calm as you see him kind of plant his feet and start lifting this one manatee out of the water. And as he does so, he just kind of says quietly to you, some of these are going to have to probably be called sooner than is typical. I don't think we'll be able to keep all of them alive.
You don't think I know that? And Estelle just keeps trying to pull this one up.
As you do, he goes, I know that you do. What I'm saying is it's okay that that's the case. We'll figure it out. There's ways to preserve the meat, and we'll replace it with something.
I don't really have time to think about that right now. I am going to save as many as I can. Is there any way that we can start taking some of the bigger ones over to the tanks back at the office, back at the vet office? We might be able to save 33 and 22?
Mitchell doesn't fall in, but he lifts and falls back and basically rolls the manatee up on to the beach, and it just is they're flopping as people are trying to roll it into a salt pool, as people start trying to build carts basically to start rolling manatees back and forth to the vet office, as you're trying to figure out how many can be saved and how many are just gonna have to be killed and turned into meat. And Mitchell stands up and dusts himself off and puts his hand on your shoulders and goes, I know you're going to try to save as many as you can. I'm just saying, it's okay. It's not your fault. Meanwhile, I nearly said Willow, and then I didn't, so be proud of me. Autumn, you wake up in Willow's bed. This was probably, you just got back, found out your sister's there, crashed and woke up. The bed is empty and you hear clattering around in the kitchen.
Is it loud enough that Autumn can't go back to sleep?
You probably could go back to sleep, but, think about that choice.
I mean, Autumn has been backpacking through the wilderness after being resurrected.
It does smell really good.
Okay, Autumn will slowly get up.
As you slowly get up and walk out into the kitchen, you see Matthew there cooking, and he turns around, looks at you, and goes, I was supposed to be gone before you woke up. Sorry. And then he just goes, Willow, she's up. And he goes, she cooked this, I swear. And he runs out the door.
She goes and grabs a cup of coffee.
So yeah, Willow comes out. She looks at you and smiles and goes, so I tried to have our meal catered because I thought that would be nice. But I was also going to try to claim the credit, probably just a little bit.
You made an excellent meal.
Thank you, I thought so, and poor Matthew, he hardly gets to cook anymore, so I thought that would be nice.
Yeah, he seems to be kind of running the place as far as I can tell.
Yeah, since all of you have been gone, that's not wholly inaccurate.
Well, and you guys were detreeified.
Right, so, speaking of that, what happened?
Do you remember anything?
Kind of. I remember feeling lost. I remember an overwhelming sense of, like, a calling, or a, obsession, maybe? I was drawn out to where I was standing, and I vaguely remember chanting, and then I remember brief things about you. I remember being in a clearing surrounded by cats, big cats. I remember you fighting them. I kind of remember talking to you, but I mean, what happened to you while you were gone?
So, you were turned into a tree, and I think it is fair to say that I handled that poorly. And we were given the task, sort of by you and the other people who were turned into foliage, to go. We had the wolf, the long walk, and the cocoon. And the first challenge ended up us being trapped in a cerebral plane of hunting, where to escape we had to kill something. And I killed a wolf god thing? And I may have died in the process. And then next thing I knew, I woke up in a cocoon, and then eventually had that scene with you where you remember, like, the big cats, and we had a conversation, and I figured out, like, I don't always want to be violent, or, like, violent to protect things. I want to be smart and strong, but use that intelligence to, like, to bring about good ends. And then we all came out of the cocoons, and then we came back. And I think you woke up from the tree thing right after I woke up from the cocoon.
She kind of nods. I'm trying to think about the right way to ask you this, because I think it's maybe what's been weighing on my mind about us. I've never really had, like, and I don't mean this in, like, a tragic way. I've just, like, never had a super serious relationship before. And I would like to think that that's what we are to each other, but I'm also maybe worried about what that might mean for you and me being here. So I talked to your sister, and some things made sense. You're always running into buildings on fire, right? And I think that's who you were when I met you. And I don't want to say that I don't find that a little bit appealing and a little bit exciting. But do you feel like you have to always be doing that for me?
Are you talking about this most recent time or in general?
Kind of both. I mean, you killed yourself whilst fighting a giant wolf. For my sake, it sounds like.
Sort of. It was. I wasn't thinking straight at that point. It wasn't I killed myself because I thought it would bring you back. I was being reckless and I killed myself. When I say it out loud, it sounds a lot worse.
I'm not saying that I'm unhappy that you went and tried to help me. Obviously, I'm very happy to not be a tree anymore. I more think I'm trying to understand what happens the next time I'm put into danger. What happens to you?
I don't think you're not going to be in danger here. And that is hard to accept. I love you, and This relationship is meaningful to me, but even if we could move back or move to the Symbiorbs and be safe from all the wilds. Like, if we found a portal, we got back, that wouldn't change anything really, because danger is everywhere. I can't protect you from everything, and you can't protect me from everything. So I'm working on learning to live with that and just enjoy my time with you. And if you are put in danger by the wilds or something that I can fix, I'm going about it in a way that I can save you, but also not get rid of me in the process.
She kind of nods and goes, I guess, like, I'm glad to hear that. What I don't want to be is the reason that you're in danger. Does this make sense? Like, am I at some point the most dangerous thing for you? If when my life is risked, you know, do whatever happened with the wolf and, you know, your trip. That's not what I want you to do. And I understand what you're saying, that you're trying to work on that. And I appreciate it. But that's my concern, that I'm the danger for you.
I don't think you're the danger for me. I would say, like, when we went out this last time, yes, you were, and I handled things poorly, but I would have gone out into the wilderness for Matthew or for any of the other people in the town that were trees. And I like going to the wilds. I like being able to help people. I think it's beautiful out there. I think it's adventures there. And it is dangerous, and I understand that. But I went out there to save kids before. I went out there to save the town before. And I am going to care more if the wilds puts you in danger. Because you're my favorite person in this town. And if stuff happens to you, it's going to have an effect on me. But I'm gonna make sure that it doesn't have an effect where I don't come back.
She nods. Were you going to go back to your original home?
When I first got here, maybe? I don't know. I didn't have a plan. I think that was pretty self-evident when Juliet came in with all the everyone else came in with all the forms filled out, and I didn't.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I gotta say, at the time, I thought that was, like, endearing, and then now meeting your sister, you know, it's a little bit, like, not concerning, but maybe just a smidge, you know. I don't want you to feel like you're in my shadow and then you leave without, you know, like, more than hopefully, like, a brief note and very little explanation. Like, I understand you wanting to leave, and I get why, like, yeah, your sister's nice, but she's a lot, I get it. I lived with her for, like, 4 days, it's enough, I understand, but...
She gives, like, a very knowing look.
But at the same time, like, I don't think I would leave Smokey Banks with a note the length you left for your sister for your sister.
Well, I don't think anyone's comparing my radio genius to yours.
I mean, in person, I wouldn't even do it, like, I would, like, sit down with her and be like, hey, just so you know, I'm taking off, here's the keys, you know?
Yeah, like, hindsight being what it is, it was ill-advised, but she would have also talked me out of it? My sister is great and all, but I don't think she always sees things from a perspective that is not her own.
Is she gonna talk you out of it this time?
I don't think so anymore. It's one thing to... Well, first of all, we can't leave, apparently. But beyond that, it's one thing to talk someone out of taking a trip. It's another thing to talk someone into moving.
That's true. That's true.
Also, she'd have to talk you into moving as well, which I think is going to be a harder pitch.
I don't know that I think I like Smokey Banks in spite of Smokey Banks being a little weird right now.
That's assuming you still want me around.
When you say that, she slides her hand across the table and grips yours and goes, I definitely still want you around, Autumn. It's just, I'm not altogether used to the idea of a relationship being more than just fun, and it's not that I don't want that, it's that I think maybe when I met you, I sort of ignored some things that maybe we should have talked about. I just didn't think that hard about, like, oh, where did she come from? Or why doesn't anyone know how she got here? Or why didn't she fill out her forms? Or why does she seem really anxious to throw herself into danger? And now it's kind of becoming apparent that I maybe shouldn't have ignored those things and we should have talked about them before I got turned into a tree and you almost died as a result. And I want this to work, but what it sounds like happened was I was put in danger and you responded to that so strongly that you almost or did in some way die. And that's frightening for me,
Yeah, it is when I think about it, but I try not to think about it. That's not, a great thing to say, but, the idea that I sort of died or something, and I woke up as, a tree person, all wooden, and it was scary and horrifying, but I want to be here. I want to grow. I want to change. I want to be less reckless. And I want to grow with you.
Good. And she leans in and kisses you. And her hand slides up your arm. And she breaks the kiss and leans into your ear and goes, now, finish breakfast and come back to bed. And she stands up and walks into the bedroom. Sometime later, Estelle is in her office alone. There's a kind of this mewling sound from outside as the tanks that occasionally Estelle would use to care for sick manatees are too full. They're too full as people are trying to save what manatees they can, and Estelle is just frantically trying to chunk through the logistics of we have X number of manatees, we have X amount of space, how do we cull the herd enough that we could still maybe keep these things alive, can they survive in fresh water, for how long, yada yada yada. Basically you're having to cycle them in and out of fresh and salt water to keep their skin from falling off, and to keep them able to float. Estelle, how do you imagine Estelle in this moment? Give us a rundown of what she's doing.
I think she's probably, I'm gonna guess at least one of the rooms in the vet office, whether it's her office or one of the, like I said, rooms, has a whiteboard, and she's just been writing down as much, as many of the equations that she needs to figure out how to keep the tanks full enough, but also with enough salt in it. I'm assuming this has been going on for a while now. So you know when you can tell someone's been running their hand through their hair a lot?
Yeah.
It's definitely got that look to it. I think she's got one marker in her mouth and one that she's writing with that she just keeps alternating. And she's probably also just got, in her other hand, she's probably just got a bunch of papers for how the tanks work, because that's not her expertise. It's the animals that are her expertise, but she has the logistical, mechanical information for if it were to break down, if you have to reset the whole thing, here's how you do it. And so she's got that, trying to come up with any solution, like you said, to save as many as she can.
So while you're working through this, There isn't a knock at the door, but Mitchell just walks in. You can see he's carrying, like, 2 mugs of coffee and a meal that very much looks like it was probably made by Matthew, you know, in, like, a little biodegradable box. He comes in and sits down. He sees you writing, and he like, slides the coffee across your desk and puts the food down and goes, I think you should probably...
Kataris, you scared me.
That's fair. I should have announced myself. You should probably eat. I'm guessing you haven't done that enough.
I don't have time for that right now. I thank you, but I only have, like, hours before the manatees start dying.
A bunch of them die, yeah. I think they're going to die.
Yes, thank you, Mitchell. Thank you for reminding me that.
I think you misunderstand what I mean. I don't mean that means you should stress more about it. I think what it means is that we're there, and you should eat. No,
we're not. We're not there yet. I can figure this out. I'm gonna figure this out. I have to figure this out. I'm not gonna let them die.
I understand you mean the manatees, but... And he kind of looks to the side. I don't like bringing this up because it feels doom and gloom, and that's really not what I'm trying to be. But we're not leaving here. At least not right now. I don't think we're gonna get back. We're not gonna be able to have a herd of sea saltwater life, at least in a major way, anymore. I get what you're wanting to do, but, and I don't want to be the one that has to say this, but I think someone has to say it to you, maybe. We're not going to be back in our world for a while. We're not going to be back to normal. Things are going to change.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we're not going to be back anytime soon. It is my job. It is my responsibility to make sure that they don't die. And my job got a little harder, but I'm gonna figure this out.
He just nods and goes, that's fine, but I'm going to bring you food, and I think it's going to be my job to make sure you eat the food.
What are you doing?
I'm bringing you food.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
I know.
What are you doing?
Honestly, Estelle, I don't really know. I think what my main goal... You know how your job is to save the manatees, right? My job was to keep us from getting sucked into the wilds, and I failed. Like, 100% failed, but also I don't really think it was ever... I don't think there was ever a version of this where we didn't get sucked into the wilds. I think that I was fighting a losing battle and invested, frankly, a lot of my life into fighting a losing battle. So I think what I'm trying to do is fight a battle I can win. And right now that looks a lot like you eating this, and he, like, opens the box and goes, some kind of foamed cheese on... rice that has been fried till crispy with a reduction? Matthew said something about reductions. I don't know. And he slides something over to you that looks, like, way too fancy. Like, it looks like this doesn't even look like food meal that people say you're supposed to taste, not eat. I was hoping for biscuits and gravy, like something that would be sustaining. He did this.
Matthew.
I think Estelle at this point finally, like, turns around, crosses her arms. She's not looking at the food. She's looking at him. And she shoves one of the, markers, like, in her, like, hair. So she's still holding one, but she's got the other one now, like, just shoved in her ponytail. You're really confusing. You know that? Like,
I'm confusing.
Yes. Like, I'm not a person who needs to define what's going on here, but I feel like if you're gonna keep following me around and you're gonna keep pressing this, Maybe it would help all the distraction if I knew what this was. What are you doing?
I feel like, okay, is it weird to say I want to be your boyfriend? That, I don't know, it feels like juvenile, I guess, to be like, can we be boyfriend, girl? I would like to be going steady, but you seem mad at me.
I don't know if I'm mad, but it is bad timing.
Well, I mean, I agree with you on that. My preference for when I was going to start going steady would be like, me at my peak. I had just saved kids who had been lost in the wilds. I had stopped bugs from destroying the town and had figured out how to get us back to regular life. But unfortunately, I failed at all of those things, so what I am is a newly, basically unemployed sheriff who's bringing you food. So that's what I've got to offer. But You're
not really selling yourself on going steady right now.
Well, now what I do have is a lot of time on my hands, and I'm used to caring for a lot of people, and I think I could manage helping out just one. And I'm not going to pretend like I can fix all of your problems for you. I definitely can't. But I can bring you food. I can make sure that you are taking care of yourself on occasion. I can, and hear me out, be a pretty fun distraction at times, not to toot my own horn. I think I can be a pretty good distraction. I could read you books while you're trying to save the world. But regardless of all of that, really what I think it is that you and Matthew made me care more about the town, really care about it more than I have in a long time. I think Matthew's doing a better job of what I've been trying to do than I've ever done it, and I want to be here for both of you. And I don't think that means what it used to mean. I don't think it means that I'm going to run around town with my walkie-talkie and try to keep people from not straying into the wilds. I think that ship sailed, but it means that I can be here for the two of you.
Estelle looks at him for an uncomfortable amount of time, sighs, and finally, drops her gaze. If you can help me get through the next 4 hours before there's nothing left to save, you can certainly be a distraction after that.
He, goes over to, a clock and just, starts, winding it, okay, exactly 4 hours, great, I will be ready to be a distraction in 4 hours. Also, I did talk to Maul a lot, and she knows quite a bit about, salting meat, so worst case scenario, I mean, I do think we could preserve a lot of the manatees and use them as, a source of food for the next little while of uncertainty. That's all I've got.
Let's talk about that after I've tried to save them.
Definitely.
Before they've become food.
Okay, how about this for a timeline? In the next 15 minutes, you eat the food, I'm gonna put air quotes around food, that Matthew made you. 4 hours. We save a bunch of manatees and then let Maul have the rest of them. Next, I'm gonna be generous and say 12 hours. I distract you.
Estelle cracks a smile. You've got a deal.
What if I said 13 hours of distractions?
I don't think I'm gonna be counting.
Hello, all you lovely people out there in Smokey Banks. I hope you still are staying safe and keeping your doors locked. The nights are getting longer and stranger, and we all understand that fear can creep through doors even though they're locked. But remember to lean on your neighbors and trust each other out here in Smokey Banks. Together we can survive this. A few notes, Ball has some openings in her hunting parties. One person went missing and another was injured. If you have experience with a weapon, speak with her. If you want to be armed, talk to Fred. As always, Matthew is looking for volunteers to train to defend the town and start reinforcing the wall. Matthew wants to impress, this is a dangerous job. We have had losses and there always seems to be dangerous things at the walls. Lastly, the City Council would like to remind everyone to stay vigilant. They are working on solutions to our current predicament.
Time passes in Smokey Banks. Pretty quickly, it becomes apparent to all of you that things are not going to suddenly snap back to normalcy. You're going to be here for a while. The plant life in the ocean largely dies. The gardens themselves are still mostly functional, but food suddenly does become far more scarce. Some manatees were able to be saved and kept in, purposefully built saltwater areas that are now kind of being stored as at least some form of livestock to try to keep you guys going, but things get a little bit more difficult considering a lot of your garden was saltwater plant life that, you guys were researching, and these manatees. As nights go on in this place, not that it's always night, but, as there's more and more nights, that time also gets darker. The sounds change. What used to be, silence and maybe, the lovely sound of insects and maybe the occasional snuffling around of some animals that you have living in the gardens is replaced now with howling, scratching at the gates, fences torn down. It is frequent now for when people are out at night in the streets, them to see creatures scurrying away between buildings, back out into the wilds, over the fence, under the fence. Teti's bugs are becoming more useful as they're a helpful early detection thing, as they kind of live everywhere, they have made tunnel networks in a lot of places, but they are also attacked far more frequently now. Teddy himself is fine, but is actually having trouble maintaining, a population of builder beetles because they keep getting carried off by other things. During this time, Matthew and what is quickly becoming kind of a town militia are becoming far more immediately needed, as attacks in the town are no longer twice a year thing. The streets have to be patrolled. There are all manner of large, scaly, furry, and fanged creatures that will come over the wall and think of you guys as a delightful snack. At night now, people stay home, they lock their doors, and if you're out at night, you're armed and probably trying to fend off whatever pack of predators has stumbled its way into Smokey Banks. Meanwhile, to try to supplement food, Maul has started making runs out into the wild in an attempt to hunt, but that is always tricky. So, in this time, now we get to play the fun game of how does Smokey Banks change? So, everyone's gonna get one thing, and we're gonna start with Fred. Fred, you live in Smokey Banks for 3 months after it gets transported to a very hostile, very unsafe area. How do you think Smokey Banks changes? And this doesn't necessarily have to be personal for Fred. This is just city building. How do you think Smokey Banks changes?
Gone back to episode 0, huh?
Yeah, we're going back to episode 0.
Okay, can you describe Old Town again?
So Old Town was the part of the city before Symbi herbs were getting made, or before eco herbs were getting made, rather. So it's old construction of what we would consider to be, strip malls and, apartment complexes that were good enough to not rip down, but also definitely not the solar punk style that most of the rest of Smokey Banks is. So it is retrofit rather than new construction that's supposed to be sustainable. The sustainable thing about Old Town is they didn't rip it down and build it new. They made old blockbusters like Estelle's office is based out of. They made those work as new things.
Okay, so it is still functional. It's not dilapidated?
No, it might be like a little bit more like it's a little bit more overgrown, you might say, but it's not like falling down, you know.
Okay.
I mean, the only building, there was a building that fell down in Old Town, that was the apartments that the eco stays, I think is what they were called. Those got knocked down in the storm.
Gotcha. I think I'm going to still try to go with it. Tell me if you think this is too much or not the right thing. Because Old Town is kind of like on the fringes of what town is now, right? It's like on the edge.
Yeah, it always was. Yeah.
Okay. I imagine that like some of the older, more less functional parts of Old Town have been like scavenged and some torn down, and those building materials used as additional wall material, where since we have so many wild monster attacks that we constantly need more like fence and wall material to keep our fortifications up, and we've had to scavenge from Old Town to make that happen.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and that would be something I feel like Fred could be involved in as well, as like that construction project of trying to build and strengthen walls with what is probably more metal and concrete than you would typically have otherwise, because those are like pretty demanding resources to make. So repurposing metal from Old Town to try to like fill in the walls, I think makes a lot of sense and strengthen them. All right, who wants to go next?
Me.
Okay, Juliet, or really, I guess in this case, you're Caitlin, not exactly Juliet.
Yeah, it's just Caitlin.
Either way, Caitlin, how do you think Smokey Banks has changed in the intervening 3 months?
I think there is less music, and that is because I think everyone is pulling a lot longer shifts. Like, there used to be a lot more leisure time, and now it's kind of like all hands on deck a lot more, and so people just have less time to relax. And one of those side effects is less music, like being made by people, not Willow.
Gotcha. Mandy or Zach? All right, Zach's got a hand up. I'm feeling like an elementary school teacher. I love it.
So I think a lot of the streetlights have now been sort of disassembled and turned into like old school torches. Except like so instead of like just like they left some of the wiring so it can like auto start. So we just have to fill it with debris every night as a way to scare away the animals more than just electric lights do.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense, actually. Yeah, fire frequently freaks things out. Yeah.
Right. So we have like the streets are now lit with fire, and there's a lot of work going into making sure the fire doesn't spread, and like external lighting is a lot more fire based. But there's a lot of work that goes into being like, this is insulated, and how do we make it as easy as possible to light 700 lamps every night to keep us safe?
I like it. All right, Mandy.
I think that the gardens have become, like, obviously the gardens had to change a lot. We lost all the hydroponics, basically. And even though I think maybe eventually there could be research into what is in the freshwater next to us now and maybe trying to repurpose that, I think right now those have been abandoned and we're just trying to keep what we have going, assuming that most of the crops that we have actually grow in this new environment, making sure that we have enough for everybody. I also do think that I don't think Mall would take groups of people, but I do think like almost hunting parties are like a thing. Like, I'm not saying they go out daily, but like we have to have like a set, like this group of people is going to try to find food to supplement for the fact that we don't have the hydroponics anymore.
Gotcha. So, I will say, after this kind of break, things have started to not exactly settle down in Smokey Banks, but certainly have become kind of a status quo, or there is a steady state here. As time stretches on, all of you get a note, with the Wild Watchers, like, seal on it, that just says, meet at the lighthouse tonight at whatever, 10 o'clock. And it is from Maul. In this case, typically, at this point now, Willow has kind of started to come to these meetings. Maul does, Mitchell still does, Matthew does, and so does Ruben and Honey, and I think that's it. And then all of you.
No Doc Marlin?
No Doc Marlin.
Okay.
It is rare at this point for anyone to ever walk alone to these meetings, and in this case, Maul has been gone for a little bit. Juliet, that's not rare. That Maul is gone for maybe a week at a time, maybe 5 days as she goes off hunting and comes back with whatever she can scavenge and hunt. She has to go pretty far afield, so it has not been rare for her to be gone for some time.
But she's able to be gone that long.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. She doesn't walk away from the tree and then collapse. She is still able to go out in the wilds and has been for the past 3 months a lot.
And she has not run into a limit distance-wise of how far she can leave.
No, she has not. I'll say in this case, then, that Juliet, you and friend find yourselves walking together towards this meeting of the Wild Watchers. And just to kind of set this up with a little bit of context, because you asked, Juliet, you haven't talked to Doc Marlin since that encounter that you had with Estelle and him.
Right at the beginning, yeah.
He has been not gone, but he has not been talking to any of you.
It's been a while, Fred. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. How's the shop?
The shop's all right, but I've been pretty busy trying to help keep the walls up out there. We had to scavenge some Old Town recently to keep the monsters out.
Is it working?
As much as it can.
Well, I guess that's what we can hope for, right?
I mean, if anything, it slows them down enough for Matthew's militia to respond. Because anytime they come barging through, it makes a great big noise, and everyone can hear it.
Yeah, I try to avoid going out at night, which is unfortunate because I always liked moon gazing. But I guess it's not the same now that there's not all the moons or the ring or anything, so I guess it's probably best.
So, what have you been up to lately? Because haven't really been able to go out in the wilds and catalog plants. I apologize. I can't quite exactly remember what you wanted to do out there.
Yeah, well, the whole sabbatical thing is kind of a distant memory at this point. Mostly I've been working on being people's hands, having biochemical expertise has been useful in trying to figure out what things can survive with how much salinity, trying to cultivate things that don't need salt water.
Oh gosh, I never considered that with all our food changing. Yeah.
Oh yeah, everything.
We definitely need someone like you to know what's what.
That's the idea. I try to be helpful. And then we kind of had to take stock of what we have in the pharmacy. And so I've been working on developing whatever compounds we can so that supply lasts as long as possible. But, it's a work in progress, shall we say.
Well, I think you're doing a great job.
Well, thanks. Just don't need too many antibiotics while you're out there working with fences.
Hopefully not. Actually, it's something I was been meaning to talk to you about, but I haven't really had a chance. Have you seen Doc Marlin recently?
No, not really at all. I assume he's busy with other things in the university. I've been pretty wrapped up in all of the things I mentioned, so he's not a biochemist. I haven't been working really closely with him. Have you seen him? Has he been working on the fences?
Well, no. I had one really strange interaction with him when we first got back to town.
Oh, I think that's the norm, yeah.
Yeah, he came in my shop one day, and just he had this relic that he wanted me to take a look at. And I mean, by now you you've heard about how I can taste an object and kind of learn the history of it a little bit.
Right, yeah.
Well, I did it on that thing, which kind of freaked him out. He was very confused on why I did that.
Oh, all right. Fair.
And I saw. I mean, Cody, I assume we've talked about what Fred saw, and
yeah, you can assume that if you want. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of assume we've already shared that. Yeah, and so I told him about what I saw, and we talked about that already. But he seemed really freaked out that I was able to determine that, and then I haven't seen him since.
All right.
I was just curious if you'd seen him, if he'd said anything.
No, I know that the ruins is kind of his area of interest.
I didn't even really get a good chance to explain everything that I saw to him. He just kind of. I told him that I could see. I told him that I could see the history of it,
right?
And then he just kind of backed away and left. I think he might have been freaked out about the new powers I have, and that some of the rest of us got. I don't know.
Right. Did he say where the relic was from?
He said it was from the ruins.
So it was from the ruins. What was the relic again?
It was a statue figurine given to presumably a king,
right?
Of the previous civilization that is now what the ruins are, kind of as a mockery. It was a very ornate statue given to a king whose kingdom is failing.
Right. I'm intrigued. I'm wondering if there's perhaps more that he has from the. I'm sure there's more that he has from the ruins. And to be honest, it's a weird interaction with him, but I don't know that I've had a very normal interaction with him, I guess. Do you think he's gone missing like Dr. Otis?
I had no idea.
Well, maybe something we can ask around about.
Yeah, he's not really someone I think about on a daily basis because I didn't really have too many interactions with him. But I guess I'm just surprised he didn't come back. He didn't bring anything else for me to look at. He didn't even stay to hear the explanation of the first thing he brought. I don't know. It was just very strange.
Pretty rude, really. And that is odd because he does like to keep track of things. His office is filled with notes. It might be worth asking around to see if anybody's seen him.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to stop by his office sometime, see if he's around.
That's not a bad idea.
So when you walk into the lighthouse, it's odd in that it is now very organized and seemingly has a lot more traffic in it. Ruben is there still, but now he's almost kind of working more as like a dispatcher, as he's become the person that's always awake and always like looking out over the town. So his role has become more essential, and as such, he can no longer just have like a sloppy pile of books everywhere. There's still a pretty extensive library, but it's now all on shelves, and there aren't just piles of paper anymore. The kitchen seems better stocked as people are stopping in here more frequently. When you arrive, I'll say all of you are here except Matthew and Maul are both missing.
Ruben, it looks fantastic in here.
As you say that, you just see him, like, he's still, like, holding a cigarette and still has coffee. And he just looks around and goes, "It doesn't exactly feel like home, but I guess I will make do with it. But I guess at this point now, people need me, so here I am, I guess, providing a comfortable place for people that would otherwise have to brave the outdoors when they must organize at night."
Are you doing all right?
I'm on for my books and for my writing, which is why I enjoyed the position that I have for the time that I did.
That's fair. I feel like we all have a little less time lately.
He kind of like stares with very like bloodshot, kind of bleary eyes, as this was already a person who was not sleeping right anyways. That is the fact. But I will say, at least there are interesting stories to be recorded, and I can at least do that. After a while, the door bangs open, and Matthew comes in. He doesn't look that much different, but just more and more and more haggard. His hair's a little bit longer. He has a very patchy beard now, and Guffey's with him at this point, who will occasionally join him as he's on patrols. Guffey, if anything, has gotten somehow fluffier and also scarier looking, as Tibetan Mastiffs are fighting dogs, really. Like, they're meant to be, like, they're guard dogs. So, like, Guffey's kind of in his element as he is, like, basically walking with his shoulder, like, touching Matthew's leg at all times. Matthew himself has, like, these, like, 4 claw marks on his cheek down into his, like, patchy beard. And he slumps down at the table and, like, drops a bow and a spear that's, like, bent on the table and just kind of sighs and looks around at all of you and goes, "Hello, Mom. Hello, everyone else. I'm glad you all got here safely. I'll take that to mean the militia's doing what it's supposed to be doing."
Yeah. We didn't see any monsters on our way over here.
Does anyone know what this is about? Maybe? Any hint from Mal? Nah. Last time I saw her, she was going to hunt, and no sooner as she left was when the bats came, and I've been trying to get giant bats out of people's houses ever since. Let me tell you, Guffey, it's fantastic when things are on the ground. When they can fly, having a 100-pound guide dog is useless. And when he says that, Guffey looks, like, very sad. He just kind of, like, gives him big puppy dog eyes, and he's like, "You're not useless, Guffey. I love you. I love you, Guffey."
How is the bat situation? Is it resolved? Is it resolved now, at least?
I've killed many bats, but I believe there are still yet more undiscovered bats. Somehow there's still endless bats.
Are they attracted to something particular in people's houses?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I really never considered if there was a commonality between. He looks over at Estelle and goes, "Mom, you want to go bat hunting with me late, like tonight? Do you want to go hunt bats after this?"
We don't have to hunt them if they are just happy to leave for something else.
Unless they're a good food source.
I suppose. Most of the bats I've seen are so small as to be kind of pointless to eat.
These are not small bats. They're so large.
Well, I gathered that, but I don't know.
If it can pick up a 200-pound mastiff, I think we're past the thing of small.
I'll tag along and take notes if you want to do some hunting.
Perfect. As all of you are talking, the door bangs open for a last time, and Maul comes in. She's carrying a very odd-looking creature. It's a reptile that has very long arms and legs that end in, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it, not exactly so much like claws as, I guess claws, but they're long and fairly dexterous-looking claws, so they're not like short, but, you know, maybe like a 2 or 3 inch away from...
It's like thick fingers, yeah.
Yeah. Seem to be very sharp. It has like a kind of like flat face with a very wide mouth with sharp teeth that's kind of like hanging open, and a tail that is long enough that you think it could probably like balance its weight standing on its hind legs. When she walks in, she drops the carcass on the table and goes over to you, Juliet. She sits down next to you and like leans her head on your shoulder and looks up at you and goes, "I have had a bad couple of days."
Well, I'm glad you're back in one piece.
She leans forward and kisses you and goes, "I am also glad to be back. I want to be..."
When did you last sleep?
That's a great question. It turns out sleeping when you're carrying this thing back, not super fun.
As soon as Maul dropped that on the table, Estelle got up and started, like, poking at it, you know? Like, I don't know, whatever you do with like a dead animal. She's like
examining it.
Yeah, examining the extremities, looking at like what the teeth look like, that kind of thing.
You flop it over, and while you do, like, Maul just kind of like groans and goes, ugh. And as she's leading into Juliet, she looks back up at you and goes, we're gonna have to have this conversation before I can go to bed. Or before hopefully we can go to bed. So when you flip that over, you see there's a big burn mark right in its chest that, Juliet, to you would be very familiar, as you had one just like it on your chest a little while ago. Like maybe 3 months ago.
I'd recognize it too, right?
Yes.
Oh gosh, did Maul take that weapon?
No, she does not. No, she does not have one of those particular things that made that mark.
So, Maul, are you telling me that you found it like with this?
I found it like, I didn't do this. Yeah, I found it like this. And then I drug its stinking body back here for a little bit of show and tell.
How far away was it?
She straightens up and goes, yeah, so I had been out for 3 days when I came across this. I hadn't exactly been going in a straight line. I was trying to track animals when I came across its body like this. She slides her hand into yours, Juliet, and squeezes your hand and goes, I know you told me about Lance, and I don't take back what I thought when you told me that. I'm not mad about what you did, but I do think it's going to be a thing we have to deal with now.
Right, it seems like that, yeah. Was there anything else around? Just this thing, no other marks, no other tracks.
That's a really good question. Let me think about that. Yes, there were, but nothing that I could really follow, and also nothing that I wanted to follow. The tracks were coming from not the same direction as me, but maybe tangentially. So I guess what I mean is that it seems like he's getting closer. I don't know if he's alone. I don't know if there's more people with him, but whatever course they're taking through the forest by Smokey Banks, I think they're getting closer to us. I know we've sort of moved now, but
are we? Maybe this is something that I guess I didn't think to ask this before. Where we are now, the sky where we are now, that's not familiar to you at all, right?
Correct.
This is the 8th place, I guess?
Yeah, I would say that's right, yeah.
Estelle is doing a deeper examination of the hole, partially because I don't remember.
Okay.
Is there does this look like a laser burn, or is there a bullet in there?
So I'm trying to remember how I described this. So it is not a bullet, but it also isn't just like a heat gun. It is, I think,
like shrapnel or something.
I think I described it as what probably would be called like plasma. So like it's shooting.
It was like an energy weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like shooting a burst of energy that does like concussive damage as well as burning your flesh.
Okay, so this looks very this is.
It is exactly the same as what happened to Juliet. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to confirm. Okay.
So I think the immediate question is there anything we can do to defend ourselves from these weapons?
Maul looks around at all of you and goes, my answer to this kind of sucks, which is, I probably could defend me from this weapon, but I don't think that would probably extend to all of you. I'm, had some work done, you might say. But that's not like I don't know how to do that to other people, so that would be on you guys if you want to try to figure that out.
Could Fred figure that out?
Quick question for Cody.
Sure.
So, since the town has moved, I assume I no longer have access to that refinery with all that metal?
You do not. That is true.
Okay. So whatever I had with me is all I have. And I don't know how much I was able to bring back before.
Now, that being said, if you wanted to try to make some kind of armor, Sorry. You could all have your Mandalorian moment, but that's gonna be like rules and stuff to have that happen.
We are different people, Cody. Like, if you want to make your armor like Iron Man suit and you're like Mandalorian.
It's just like a thing in the show is that Mandalorians just get shot constantly. Like, it's like in the show, it's like, stormtroopers always miss, except Mandalorians who they hit in the armor every single time.
Which is the equivalent of missing, if we're being honest.
Yeah, it's a funny flavor thing to make the Mandalorians' armor matter, but it is like, yeah, between Sabine and, Din Djarin, it's just like every 3 seconds there's like ping, 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 as they're just getting shot to pieces. So the answer, Fred, for you is you think maybe, but you would have to do some work on it.
Okay. And Zach, did you ask that question in character?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that was in character.
Well, I do still have some of that metal I got from the refinery before I lost access to it. I could try to make something out of it, but I don't know. I'd have to play around with it, and no guarantee anything would work.
I mean, I think that's where we start, right? And we equip some people, because what's stopping them from coming in and taking out everything? And I'm not saying I want to be aggressive towards them, but how does Lance shot Juliet once? What's stopping him from coming in here and shooting enough people that we give him all our food?
Well, we don't know why he shot this. If it was attacking him, then yeah, I think any of us would have done that. We don't know if it's him, if it's somebody else from his town, if they're alone, if it's the whole town and all the towns got moved to whatever this place is.
I'm just worried about someone stronger than us coming in. And I'm not saying we go out and be aggressive. I specifically, I don't want to do that. But I also don't want to sit here unprepared and then get murdered by a guy with weapons that sound like they're out of one of my books.
Right. I think it's fair to think about some some defense, but I don't think that should be our first thing, like you said.
As you're having this conversation, Estelle, Mitchell, typically in these meetings, has been like pretty quiet. He's just kind of there, and if people need something, he'll help, but he's not been like super active. He stands up next to you, and you can feel that he's like kind of like uncomfortable and seems sort of rigid as he looks down at this thing with like a burn mark on its chest and speaks, but cautiously. I've been unsurprised by just about everything that has happened in the last few months. And as he talks, you see that papery look in his eyes come back, like kind of in full force, as his eyes like get more and more distant as he seems like he's thinking hard as he stares down at this thing. But I wasn't expecting this kind of intervention from outside, and I don't know what it means for us. I'm concerned it will be worse. We're already struggling to survive, and I'm not exactly worried about what Juliet is to say that I don't know that I think that we're going to get robbed for our food, but I don't think that Lance and whoever's with him, if anyone, will be necessarily a positive influence in the town. Things are already tense, and I think the possibility of someone bigger and badder might be troublesome for an already troubled group of people.
Do you have any evidence of that?
He looks at you with eyes totally papered over and goes, "There's only so many things that happen when societies meet. I don't know that they always cooperate. We can hope, but apparently Lance, and again, we don't know how many people are with him. Apparently they're significantly further along in some ways than us." Matthew looks down at it and goes, "Yeah, it doesn't look like that was done by a spear. Not that the spears are bad, Fred, you make a great spear, but, never seen that before. I don't like it."
Mitchell, did you see who was with Lance? Could you see?
No, I can see a lot of what has happened in Smokey Banks. I can't see anything outside of it, and I had kind of considered us to be alone out here. I think what's concerning me is that we're not, and I don't know what that means. And I've kind of known what all of this has meant for, months, and now I don't.
'Cause Smokey Banks has never been somewhere where we don't know what's out there.
Well,
right?
And also where what's out there is intelligent and might not exactly love us. I can deal with predators stumbling in. I don't know how I feel about
intelligent predators?
Yeah, sci-fi humans wandering in with space lasers.
But maybe Lance had a moment of genuine change. He succeeded his trial, as far as we understand. So maybe it'll be good?
We can hope, but we might want to, I don't know, do we tell people?
I think we need to be prepared.
I think we have to, because if everyone's worried about potential animals, they might not initially see another person and think that that's a bad thing, or could be a bad thing.
I don't think we want to say that there are hostile people coming necessarily, but we can make people aware that there might be other humans.
Well, but to be prepared, don't just assume that if a person walks in that
it's a Smokey Banks person.
Yeah, well, a Smokey Banks person, or that they don't mean harm.
As you say that, Ruben looks up at all of you and goes, "That all seems like a fantastic idea. Now, could one of you maybe do me a favor and please drag the carcass off my table? I still live and eat here, and it would be great if there was not a monster carcass on my table." As he says that, you hear the door again open and close behind you. And you all look over to see Doc Marlin standing with, his hands out of his pockets, and then back in his pockets, and then back out of his pockets. "Wild Watchers, it's been a while, and I see you have, a monster here on your table. That's typical? Maybe?"
For the past 3 months, yes. Very.
Yeah, just for the last 3 months, I'm sure it's been typical. The city council would like to formally ask all of you club members to come and please speak with us. We're having a meeting to discuss necessary steps for Smokey Banks, and I would like all of you to join me.
Where at?
And when?
Now! At the council building, of course, or town hall, city hall. I don't remember what we called it.
All right, well, I guess we were wrapping up anyway.
Excellent.
And Juliet kind of looks around at the other people there. She feels like she's not getting something because she hasn't interacted with the city council really before, and is kind of looking for confirmation. Is this okay?
Fred's brow is definitely furrowed because, as he and Juliet discussed, no one has seen Doc Marlin in months, and he just shows up out of nowhere. I
think Estelle's been standing this whole time, looking over the lizard thing, and she kind of glances over at Mitchell. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that they haven't asked to talk to us sooner, considering everything that's been going on. Maul, I'll take this off your hands. I want to take a closer look at it anyway. But I guess we should go talk to the council.
Mitchell stands up, and he doesn't say anything aloud to most of you, but Estelle, he wraps his hand around your waist and leans in close and whispers in your ear, I don't know that we should go with them, but I don't know that we shouldn't.
She looks at him kind of surprised. What do you mean?
Mitchell just goes, I don't know. I have a bad feeling.
About talking to the council?
I don't know. I'm paranoid, you know? And he, like, points at his eyes that are, like, totally papered over right now. I'm paranoid. I have bad feelings sometimes.
Does Autumn sense whatever she can sense from him?
Oh, spend a fate point.
What is Autumn sense again?
Is it like ill will, like malice and ill will? Or aggression?
So, if someone has ill will towards you, you can feel their emotions. You have empathy for things that are trying to attack you.
I spent a fate point.
So you spend a fate point, and like I said, when that happens, your eyes, like a raccoon mask, forms over your eyes. That is that same like skin wood texture that like the. Oh my gosh, what was it called? The Phantom. Forest Phantom has, or sort of what also is in Estelle's hair. That mask pops up on your face, and Marlin, like, audibly gasps and jumps back, and you immediately feel, like, absolute, abject horror from him. Like, he is terrified of you. He is terrified of this place. He does not want to be here. He is very afraid. And I will say, mixed with that fear is like a similar fear, but like a guilt as well. He feels guilty and afraid.
Does the fact that Autumn is feeling anything mean that he has ill intentions? Like, would she feel nothing if his intentions were good?
Kinda, yeah. It does imply that he's not feeling great about you guys.
Okay.
So we end there, right?
I'm not done yet.
So wait, did we all just see this like mass thing pop up on Autumn?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's visible. Yeah. It's like,
okay.
It has like a.
Is this the first time we have seen it?
Maybe, like, well, probably not, given how dangerous the town is. You would know what this means.
Okay.
She would have told you what that means, to like, I'm sure we would have all talked about what our powers do.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say anyone who's done a patrol with the militia knows Autumn does this.
If we know what this means, then Estelle, looks over at Autumn. Anything?
Are we out of earshot of Doc Marlin?
No, he's still there.
No, you're definitely not.
We'll catch up with you. Doc, we'll
be there in just a minute. We need to finish up our meeting. There's ceremony.
I think you should come now. Why wouldn't you? That's odd. Why wouldn't you just come now? We need to talk.
And you interrupted us?
I did. So let's go. We need to talk. I don't know why that would seem odd. It's obviously there's a lot to discuss.
Then why are you feeling so guilty?
I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know how you would know. And he just kind of stops talking and just stares.
So what's this meeting actually about, Doc?
We would like to talk to all of you. I've been very candid about that.
About what?
About us wanting to talk to you.
See, that's not candid.
We would like to talk to you about possible solutions for our current predicament in town.
And I think we're all interested in that.
Great, then come with me so we can talk to the city council. I don't know why this is so hard for you. I don't know why you're acting odd.
Well, lead the way.
Absolutely. And he, pushes the door open and kind of, gestures for all of you to walk out.
That's not leading.
All right. And he, walks, maybe 10 yards away from the door, 10 paces, and then is just, standing there. He's maybe holding, a torch and just, gesturing at you guys.
I think Juliet walks forward and kind of looks back at everybody because being stuck in a tower seems like a bad place to be.
Yeah, but every NPC we care about is in this tower. Literally all of them.
Is Willow here?
Willow's here.
Oh, okay.
Every NPC that we care about is here. And with Doc Marlin being outside, basically every named NPC is here. I quickly turn to Estelle. I have a very bad feeling about this.
Estelle looks between Autumn and Mitchell.
I have a very bad feeling about this as well.
Yeah, okay, I'm picking up on that, but I don't think they're gonna let this go.
I don't feel like we have a choice, but I also don't feel like we're actually meeting to talk with the town council. Or if we are, that anything good's gonna come out of it. But, as you said, we don't really have a choice, so let's do this, I guess.
Why couldn't any of us have gotten, like, I don't know, like a fireball power or something like that? Feel a lot more comfortable going into this.
I think that's what Lance has.
That's what scares me, Juliet.
Did I not mention to all of you that I can shoot fireballs now? That was part of it, because I'm paranoid, so now I can shoot fireballs.
Estelle shoves him.
I thought that was funny. I'll go first, I guess.
That doesn't seem like that'd work very well with the whole paper thing. Like, I think those don't mix very well.
So, do all of you leave, or do you stay here?
Estelle will follow directly behind Mitchell.
Alright, so I guess anyone else guessing or knowing?
Yeah, I think, Fred will head out.
I want to leave the lighthouse.
Juliet's already, outside, I thought.
No, she was, kind of standing by the door. Juliet wants to leave the lighthouse. She does not want to be stuck up in a tower. But I don't know that she wants to go to the council, because the council room is, on the first floor of Willow's tower, right?
Yes.
I don't think that she wants to go to the secondary location. She wants to leave the tower that they're stuck in.
Oh, okay, got you. So with that in mind, all of you walk out, of the lighthouse. Like I said, you see maybe 10 paces off or 10 yards off. You can see Doc Marlin standing there holding a torch. And as soon as all of you, walk out...
Oh, frick, it's nighttime.
You look to your left, look to your right, and immediately torches light all around you, and there's maybe 15 armed townspeople there. They don't make any aggressive move, they're just standing there looking at you. And Doc Marlin goes, "It's dangerous to walk anywhere at night these days." Thanks for listening to this episode of Wanderlust. Music for this show is credited down below. If you like this campaign, you can find more of our shows at the Wandering Gamer website or on Podbean. You can also find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links in the description. Now bear in mind, in the wilds, some wander to get lost, and some wander to find themselves.